And sometimes you have to kind of play around with the fingering of your chord. If your chord, like this C major 7th, usually goes down to this G, but I just needed it down to the E. So I just use it where I need it. I just go down to the E. I don't go all the way through the chord. Another thing they do a lot in jazz is they do, Wes Montgomery was the jazz guitar player that started it. They do octaves. Okay? So I would just, like here I am at the C at the 8th fret and the 5th fret. I use my first and my pinky there. And I can play it with my pick. And again, I'm deadening that inner string there. But when I go down to the 5th and the 3rd string, I've got to go back to 1 and 3. And same thing with the 6th and the 4th. I've got to go 1 and 3 as well. I can use it with a pick, or I can use it with just my thumb. That's how Wes Montgomery did it. Okay, so that's how Wes Montgomery did it. Let me do those chord melodies that we did earlier. This time I'm going to use octaves with it and see how it changes the sound. Okay, so let's do the first example again. The next example. Takes a little practice to get the feel of using those octaves, but once you do, it's a real neat effect that you can add into your playing. Okay, let me just touch on a couple of very common jazz chord forms that we haven't yet hit. We've hit a bunch of open chords, we've hit some bar chords. Now let's hit on some of these jazz chords that involve a little bit more complex harmony. Your major 7ths, your minor 7ths, some 9th chords. We'll talk more about what's involved in those 9th chords in our How Music Works section here in a second. But let me just show you some of those forms. In jazz, you generally don't want to have open strings. You want to have movable chords. They don't always have to be bar chords, but they do have to be movable chords. It just doesn't get that jazz sound when you have open strings. Okay, so let's look at some of those main major 7th forms first. On the 6th string, the form that I use all the time is this for an F major 7th. Again, you're muting that 5th string, and I don't play that highest 1st string, excuse me. Now, if I wanted one based off of the 5th string, I've got this very common B major 7th form right there. I use it all the time. Anytime you're playing jazz, that's one of my key chords. Another one is, switch my fingers around a little bit, and I have a B major 7th there. Remember that diamond is the pivot note of those movable chords. So I can move it up to here to C major 7th, D major 7th. Okay? Look at that next form, a D major 7th, still based off the 5th string. This time I'm pivoting off of that pinky though. Okay? A major 7th chord. Okay? Now, there's a couple of them that you can base off of the 4th string as well, which I use that quite a bit. This would be like an E major 7th. You've got to bar all 3 strings here with your 3rd finger. Okay? The next one is a G major 7th. Where's the G in this G major 7th? Right there. And you end up having the 7th pitch up at the top. Okay, so those are, 6 different major 7th forms. That's just about all the major 7th forms that I ever use, is in those 6 forms. So get those underneath your fingers, and you'll be able to go a long way in playing jazz, because they use an awful lot of major 7th chords. Let's take a look at the next batch, some minor 7th chords. Now, we've already found a couple of those when we were back doing our bar chords way back in the earlier sessions, probably session 7 or so. Okay, so we're going to talk about some different forms that are minor 7th forms. Let me just go through them real quick. We have an F minor 7th. That one's a little tough to grab right down here. Some guys just do it like this. F minor 7th, big bar chord. And here's a real common C minor 7th. Right there again. Second finger is that C. Maybe a little bit of a stretch the first time you try it. But I use that one all the time. And of course this guy, C minor 7th there, which you've already been introduced when we were doing our 5th string bar forms. Okay? So we've got major 7ths. We've got minor 7ths. On those major 7ths, I did throw down there in your book, you've got some open major 7th chords that you can use in different forms. Wouldn't sound as great with jazz, but you can use them in other styles of playing that you may need to do.